episode one. Hold on.
Almost.
I panicked for a second and thought my Audacity wasn't going, but it was. Okay, I'm good. Welcome to episode 201 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we discuss it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by my co-captain, Kyle Springer.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How was your weekend?
It's been good so far. Did a whole lot of nothing yesterday, which felt good. It was like my first day that I felt like I could finally just relax since I moved out here to Oklahoma. Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's Easter weekend, the weekend that we are recording this. I have no plans for Easter.
Right. I never have.
Yeah.
I eat one egg.
A single egg to keep the bunny away.
Well, I can eat as many as I want, but I make sure to include at least one in my day.
There you go.
Get that egg power.
How festive. Speaking of gods, kind of. that's kind of what we're here to talk about today.
Speaking of people who are very big and buff and strong and probably eat like 4 dozen eggs, today we're talking about some Thor comics.
Yeah, Thor. Specifically, Thor, goddess of thunder. So if you did not know, God is a woman here on the show this week. So yeah, Thor, goddess of thunder. Melissa, you pitched this one. What inspired you to pitch these?
We just hit episode 200 last week, and to honor this milestone, I thought I would go back to the very first episode you and I recorded together, which actually I think it was episode 4 of the review show, because you did a couple by yourself before I hopped on. The first thing we talked about was the Infinity Gauntlet graphic novel to prepare for the then upcoming Infinity War movie.
Yeah.
So I thought I would repeat that, and I pitched you a couple different Marvel comics that are the inspirations for upcoming films.
Perfect. Yeah, we got Thor, Love and Thunder coming up later this year. I'm super excited for that one. Still no trailer at the date that we're recording.
Still a mystery.
Yeah. So I don't know what's up with that or why we haven't gotten one yet, but I'm anticipating it and I'm so excited. I cannot wait. It'll be good. It'll be good indeed. But yeah, Thor, Goddess of Thunder. I picked of the ones you pitched. I picked this one. Partly because I knew how good it was because I had already read this. And I think these are just damn good comics. Like at the end of the day, it's not without its issue if you read them by themselves. Man, I think they're fantastic. And it happened to work out because I've been showing my girlfriend some comics and started her out with The Runaways, and then we read some of the event books like Civil War and Secret Invasion and all that stuff, and then slowly started to introduce her to characters she was interested in, and Thor was one of them, Captain Marvel was one of them, and we've gotten up to the point where the next event book that we need to start, which we actually started this weekend, is Original Sin. I have right here, Original Sin.
Yeah.
Boom. And it is, long story short, it's a murder mystery in which the Watcher gets murdered. Uatu, the Watcher, you guys might be familiar with if you guys saw Marvel's What If series on Disney Plus. There's some interesting revelations that come out of this book. And one of them causes Thor to become unworthy, and he cannot pick up Mjolnir. He cannot pick up his hammer. And so it's just sitting there on the moon, and Thor is crying and can't pick it up, and he's like, "¿Por qué? Why?" And all of a sudden, this mysterious woman comes and picks it up, and no one knows who it is. And that is where Thor, goddess of thunder, starts out. And
Yeah.
it's a really, really good series. I love Jason Aaron's entire run on Thor. From when he started the God Butcher story arc, which will also factor into Thor Love and Thunder.
There's a number of titles I could have picked. This is just the one I'd heard referenced the most. Yeah.
So from that to all the way through War of the Realms, and he still kind of did some Thor related stuff after that, but he did a big, long, expansive run on Thor, and it was fantastic. I highly recommend going to check it out. So when you pitch this, I was like, oh, we have to at least get some of this. Let's do that. So here we are.
Yeah, we read the first 2 volumes, and the second volume includes a lot of these one-off annual stories, which are fun to read. And it includes an original What If story from 60s, 70s. I don't know when that is. I believe. Okay, thank you. As old as America. This is a story Uatu tells us, not the kind that sounds like Jeffrey Wright probably, but a different one. Uatu tells us, what if Jane Foster picked up Mjolnir? What if she was Thor? And we see that play out for an issue. And I didn't know that this storyline had already happened in a What If. I thought this was the first time she ever did it.
Yeah. Well, the What If comics, as the name implies, are just these like hypothetical scenarios. Let's see how it plays out.
But I didn't know that this story was pulling from a previous What If. I thought this was an original Jason Aaron's idea. Not that it isn't great. I did like reading both of those back to back. We only read the first 2 volumes of this because that is the standard amount of comics we give ourselves to read in a week. And so because the second volume includes that bonus story, includes this one-off annual material, we didn't get a lot of the main storyline.
There's really 8 issues of this that we read. And then there was the annual, which was more of an anthology. It was 3 smaller stories in that. And then that what if issue, which is just a nice inclusion in that collection, to be like, see, he's don't be like, this was one of those things, as I'm sure you probably could have guessed, as when the story was first coming out and news came out that Jason Aaron making Thor a woman, there was all those people out there like, how dare he make Thor a woman and not call her Thorette or Thoris or something. And then they include this, and they're like, actually, this has been a thing. They're like, don't get mad. Yeah. So there you go.
And what's interesting is that when this mysterious woman picks up Mjolnir, Thor himself gives her the name. He's like, you should be Thor. Yeah. I won't be Thor anymore. Just call me Odinson, which is wild that he gives up. Like, I know his name has become, he is a god. He is a myth. He is this larger than life legend. He wants to just bestow that legendary status upon this new person. But for him to not have his own name anymore, it's like if Steve Rogers gave Sam Wilson the shield and said, you're Steve now. I'm not Steve anymore.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting comparison there. Yeah. This is, I really enjoy these books. If you cannot tell, I think these are fantastic. The art is incredible. Russell Dowderman on the pencils, and I think Matt Wilson on the colors. It just does a phenomenal job, especially after following up the artist on the previous Thor comics, which is of a more painterly style, and it gives this like very like storybook. Well, that makes it sound childlike. It's not. It feels very godlike in a strange way, if that makes sense. But then, yeah, this is maybe a more traditional comic book style. But man, it's just the colors in this are so bright and vibrant, and it's just this is an amazing book. So I highly recommend checking it out because this was fun to go back to and read. So
yeah,
there you go. Synopsis for people who might want to know a little bit more about this before we dive in. So
you already set up a lot of it.
I did the
Thor
context.
Drop hammer. Can't pick up hammer. Not Thor anymore. He thinks this masked blonde woman be Thor.
Indeed. Yeah. So there's this mysterious woman masquerading around as Thor, and Thor himself is trying to figure out who it is. And he makes this big old list of all these women he thinks it could be. He's trying to cross off their names. And meanwhile, Thor is the new Thor, the Thor goddess of thunder, is dealing with Roxxon. They're up to no good. And there's Malekith, who you guys might recognize from Thor 2. That he is up to no good as well. He's making some business dealings with Roxxon. He's implying that there's a war coming. There's some crazy stuff happening here.
Yeah, like King Lawfey's skull had came to Earth and is in the private collection of the Roxxon executive. And Malekith wants to make a deal to get that skull back and take it. They think back to where the ice giant land, where the ice giants live, and reignite some ice giants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot happening in this book. I mentioned that Jason Aaron has a gigantic run on Thor. I think this is a good place to start, but it is also not the start of the run here that he does. So that's why it kind of feels like there's a lot happening, and you kind of come in on some things of just what is going on exactly here? What did Nick Fury whisper to Thor here? I don't understand. If you want,
do you know, Kyle?
More, I do know. Do you want the context of that? Because it's not really spoilers
later
for
on.
This book.
Yeah, go ahead and tell me. The audience can choose not to listen, but I would like to hear what it is.
Sure. So I will say this is spoilers for Original Sin here at the end. So the Watcher was murdered. The Watcher, of course, watches all these big, mega important events, and he keeps records of these things here. And he gets murdered. And unfortunately, the person that murdered him was Nick Fury. And Nick Fury takes the eye of the Watcher and gets all of these secrets and info. And I don't remember exactly how he. Melissa
I have a question.
Whatnauts.com.
Number one, does he literally take the eye out of Watu's head and put it in his own head? Because I think Watu is a much bigger head than a human does.
He does not stick the eye in his own head, though. That would be
amazing
if all of a sudden his head stretched to fit. That'd be weird. But no.
Question 2.
Okay.
How do you kill a Watcher?
He had some special gun and then snuck up on him.
Okay.
So he takes the
different
eye.
Gun.
Somehow he gets all this info out, but it's all of these secrets. And then these secrets get out there in the world. And these are secrets that no one had really told anyone else. Sometimes the heroes themselves didn't really know these secrets. For example, the spider that bit Spider-Man. did not only bite him. After he knocked it off, it went and bit someone else. And there's a character who goes by the name of Silk, who her name is Cindy Moon. She got bit by the same spider, got the same powers, but was I think somehow found and then locked away for most of her life. All of this stuff. For Thor, what happened is there's no longer 9 realms. There's 10. There's a long lost realm, and the realm is called Heaven. And in this, there's a bunch of warrior kind of Valkyrie like characters, and one of them that got trapped in there is Thor's sister, Angela. Now, what's even crazier? What's even crazier is this character, Angela, created by Neil Gaiman, appeared first in Spawn, the Spawn comics, which is not owned by Marvel.
I know Neil Gaiman wrote a Spawn.
Yeah. So he made this character. She first appeared in Spawn. He had some legal battle with Image Comics about who owns the character, all this stuff. I think he eventually won and then took her to Marvel. She first appears in Guardians of the Galaxy, actually a long time ago here on the Whatnauts, on the first version of this podcast, the Whatnauts podcast.
I like that we also have our own complicated back mythology.
Right? Yeah. We read the first 2 volumes of Guardians of the Galaxy, I think right when the second movie was coming out. I don't remember. That might not be. It might have been when the first one was coming out. But yeah, there's an issue in those volumes that we read that this mysterious woman just pops up in space and we have no idea how she got there and all that stuff. That is her. That is happening at the same time that Original Sin happens and all these secrets got out. And so boom, magically here is this 10th realm. And so upon finding out that the world is bigger than he knows it, that he has a long lost sister, that Odin, his father, has been lying to everyone for all this time. His world is shattered of just like, this is not what I thought life was.
Okay.
All that stuff. And that is what it's complicated. How do I fit in this? Like that kind of existential crisis is what causes him to become unworthy.
Interesting. So Thor, he did not actually do anything. He committed no crime. He did nothing wrong.
Not at all.
He's just having trouble coping with bad things other people have done. And that makes him less worthy to wield Mjolnir.
And Nick Fury whispers it to him in Original Sin. Like there's this big fight at the end and Nick Fury gets right up to Thor and he whispers this. And you can't read the text. It's too small. You can't read it. And he hears that and immediately is just in shock and drops Mjolnir, and there it sits on the moon. Thus begins Thor, goddess of thunder.
That's not what I would have guessed the answer was.
It's not as crazy as you might think, but it is also crazy at the same time that there is this character that first appeared in Spawn, who's published by a different publisher, who's now here in Marvel.
A normal human name.
Yeah.
These are my children. Thor, Loki, Hela, Angela.
Yeah. And Steve. So yeah, but yeah, that's the spoilers for Original Sin.
Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Here, but yeah, that's about all I have to say for Thor as the Thor goddess of thunder. Cannot speak today. But yeah, do you have any kind of final spoiler-free thoughts before we jump into spoilers?
I will say, as a newcomer, you know all this backstory. YouTube videos have told me there was once a series where Jane Foster was Thor, which technically is a spoiler, but I feel like that's what everybody knows now because it's in all of these YouTube breakdown videos. They brought Natalie Portman out. She waved the hammer around at Comic-Con. We all know this. So coming to the series knowing nothing more than just what people are pulling from it, just that people are pointing at it as a reference for Thor Love and Thunder, I was able to pick it up pretty easily.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, this is fairly newcomer friendly.
Yeah. I think there's enough in there to tease you about, like what happened before this, what's going to happen after. But yeah, it's a good place to start if you are interested in being like, I wonder what comics will influence the new Thor movie here. So good stuff. I'm excited. But let's jump into a little bit of housekeeping first, and then after that we can get into spoilers for this book. So we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and a thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/thewhatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you'd like to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. A big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot, and we thank you a ton for supporting us. It means a bunch. Cool things that we've been up to here at the Whatnauts. Like Melissa mentioned previously, last week was episode 200 here on the show. That was fantastic. We covered a Comedy Central show called Review, where the main character of the show reviews life experiences and has to deal with things like divorce or murder or road rage, being Batman for a day, all of that good stuff. On top of that, crossplay has now been back for a little bit, and Kingdom Hearts had their 20th anniversary, so we got a brand new trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4. That was officially announced, all of that stuff. I'm super excited because I love Kingdom Hearts. It looks like Sora has finally grown into his gigantic shoes. And on top of that, the Captain's Log is now back up and running. We are sharing stories from our lives. We're preparing. You guys got to hear about my move a little bit, all the crazy stuff we've been up to. And I think in the coming week or two here, we might have another taste test on the Captain's Log. So get excited for all of that. But I think that's about all the housekeeping. Melissa, it looks like you're trying to fix your headphones. Are you good to go? Can you hear me? Can you do all of that stuff, or do we need to take another quick break? We might need to take another quick break, so we will be right back. We are back from that little break. So we're good to go for spoilers here. That's what's next. So I will hit the spoiler alert button. Bam, there you go. Spoilers for Thor, Goddess of Thunder. Man, I am excited. I know this one is in a strange position because, like you kind of said, I feel like most people already know the spoiler for this one here, just from being around the Marvel Cinematic Universe and knowing that this new movie is coming out. That Jane Foster is back, and in these comics, Jane Foster is Thor.
Which is surprising that information is not made available to you up front. Like, I knew this so clearly going in. I feel like so many people know this. It takes like 8 issues for her to actually reveal who she is. Nobody knows.
Which is interesting because comics only come out, or typically only come out once a month. So if this took 8 issues for us to find out, that took us 8 months to find out who it was. And I remember when this was coming out in the single issues, and this was the talk of the town of just like, who do you think it is? Like, is it this person? Is it that? But no, but Thor kissed him, so it can't be his mom. That'd be weird, right? Like, they wouldn't do that. And like we all just felt like Thor there with this big list of like, it could be this person, it could be who's worthy, like who, like who
I love his list. I love that one of the entries is Loki. Like, you don't know. Loki could be up to anything. You can never rule out Loki.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it is Jane Foster. Something that they allude to, that they mentioned here, especially at the end of I think issue 8, is when she transforms back. She mentions that, I mean, you saw her. She has cancer. She's sick. She's going through chemo, but she's taking chemo while she's in Asgardia, which is what Asgard is currently called. At this point in time in the comics. There's a whole long history with that I'm not even sure of exactly. But she's taking chemo because she refuses the magic that these Norse gods could give her and heal her. But she wants chemo, but they also mentioned that the chemo, like, she's rejecting, like, her body is rejecting the chemo. It turns out that when she becomes Thor, it gets rid of her cancer, and it like clears out her body. She's healed. She can do that. But when she turns back into Jane Foster, since it cleared everything out, the cancer comes back, but all the chemo does not. So it's like expelling all of the chemotherapy, all of the progress that they've made with that, and that's why it's rejecting. So being Thor is kind of killing her, which is why at the end there she's like, I'll do it even if it kills me, stuff like that. So but yeah, that's the big reveal. Jane Foster is Thor. And she goes on to be Thor for quite a while, and has a good run. She's no longer Thor, but she is a Valkyrie.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, and do you
have to die to become a Valkyrie, or can you do that while you're still alive?
I think, God, I don't remember. Typically, I think you have to die, but I could be wrong on that because I don't know how Valkyries become Valkyries exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because this has been my question. Like, I've heard, from New Rockstars, all these other videos, like, oh, this is the Thor Love and Thunder is going to pull from this run in the comics where Jane Foster becomes Thor, but she has cancer, and every time she picks up the hammer, it clears everything out of her body, including the chemo, so she can't heal. I've heard this. People keep telling me this. And like I said, we read these first 2 volumes. It didn't happen to take us very far into the story. I've I have no idea how this is resolved. No video I've seen has said, and then Jane Foster ended up beating it, or, and then Jane Foster died. So I don't know what happens to her. Or I don't know if this is still like, still happening in the comics. I don't know. I don't know what becomes of this initial premise.
It's kind of still happening. Like I don't remember if she dies or not, or how exactly she becomes Valkyrie. I think I have a vague memory of her dying, but I'm not certain on that. But yeah, she becomes Valkyrie. She has a weapon that can kind of turn into any weapon she wants. She has the power to now see people's, like, how long it will take or how impending their death is. There's this like floating sphere above everyone's head. And if it's like big and gigantic and like the size of a planet, then like this guy's about to die. Like, but if it's small, then they're fine. All of that stuff. And yeah, she's gone on her own adventures now. She has a magical horse whose name I don't remember, but it's also something.
God, I love a magical horse.
Yeah. It's great, and the art in those books have been fantastic. So she's still around doing her thing.
Good. I'm happy for Jane Foster and her health.
Yeah. So yeah, what in Thor, Goddess of Thunder, do you want to start with here?
I guess just the mystery that we have. Yeah, we see a lot of thought bubbles from Thor, Goddess of Thunder. Sort of realizing how strange her predicament is, and it's interesting that she's got these thought bubbles that are drawn in normal typeface that sound like just normal human thoughts, and then her word bubbles are in the like gothic font with the "Hear me, all ye heathens,
these and thous."
Right, like she isn't consciously doing it. That's just how words come out of her mouth now that she is Thor. You have no choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they do a good job
really of funny. That she's sitting there
with
like,
her thought bubbles.
Why am I talking like this? Yeah.
I like that her thought bubbles give her a lot of personality, but nothing that's specific enough to give you any clues. You do spend. I don't know what it was like to read these issues as it was coming out, if it was a leading theory that this was Jane Foster, or if this did completely take people by surprise. She also doesn't, when she transforms, she's got a mask, so you can't really see her eyes, and she's got like beautiful golden Thor locks that everyone presumes, that just comes with the hammer. If you're not blonde already, hammer will dye you blonde. So like you could look like anybody.
Well, he mentions that the Thor, or that the hammer has transformed Thor's appearance before. So
yes,
if she wasn't blonde
when he was a frog,
it's potentially they don't have to be blonde to be
this. So
it could because I think she actually is also a brunette in the comics too. Right. So
I mean, I think maybe we had one old photo of her or something. I just presumed she looked like Natalie Portman, had Natalie Portman hair.
Basically. It's a good mystery, and I think they go through a couple people, right? They go through Freya, through Lady Sif, through Jane Foster, just to kind of give you some, like, is it this person? It could be like, where were you when this happened? You weren't there. All of this stuff, and like each one seems to kind of fit in their own way, but also doesn't. So it's a good mystery, but I don't know if it necessarily holds up in terms of like murder mystery standards of Agatha Christie or whoever. Right? It's just like, okay, that there's enough in here to give you clues, but they're not really clues. But they're also not really red herrings either. It's just kind of nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Of just
it's not a mystery story, but you follow Thor with his own private mystery of who the heck is this?
Yeah.
And the person he comes down, his final guess is the shield agent named Roz Solomon, who I've never seen before, but she seems cool. She's supposed to be on a vacation, and she's actually like spying on Roxxon, and then bad stuff is happening over there, and she has to run away, and she calls Coulson, and he's like, "I thought you were on vacation," and she's like, "No, well, not when Roxxon's up to stuff," and he's like, "Okay, when you get out of this safely, you have to take a real vacation."
Yeah. Yeah. She's a newer character, I think. But she is also kind of a newer potential love interest for Thor.
I got that vibe.
Yeah. So, yeah, she seems pretty cool. I haven't seen her in much outside of the Thor stuff here that Jason Aaron did. But yeah, I like her a lot. She is spunky. She just like she has a like a I don't want to say calling, but she feels like she has a duty to like right. She's taking her paid vacation by spying on Roxxon and infiltrating right, and like that's what she should be doing at work. And what they would have had her do at work, though probably some more red tape and stuff like that. And she's just like, I'll go get this done by myself. Right.
Right. I did kind of like seeing that aspect of it because we've never talked before about how, like Thor's always on the clock. So many of these superheroes, like they do that professionally, but not in a very structured way, the way you and I have a job. You imagine maybe the shield agents have this, but like we never see Maria Hill being like, yeah, I got to go use up my vision insurance before it expires at the end of the year. I liked getting to see this glimpse of stop working. You are on vacation. We gave you vacation time. You are supposed to use it. Don't be a hero right now.
Exactly. And you mentioned Coulson. He was brought into the comics after he started appearing in the movies. So it's neat to see him in this. Like, hey, it's Agent Coulson. Good for him.
Is he an MCU original? Was he not in any comics beforehand?
I think so. I could be wrong on that, but I guess we shall find out. Let me see if I can look it up here.
Yeah, you look that up, and Thor believes it must be Roz Solomon. She's the last person left, and he's confronting Thor. Odinson, that's what he wants to be called now. Odinson goes and confronts Thor to say, I know it's you. I'm not mad. He says, I'm not jealous. Actually, I am kind of jealous, but like, I don't expect you to apologize for it. I just want you to tell me what's happening. Like, he handles it very well. And to say, like, Roz, I know it's you. Can we talk about this? What makes you so worthy? Not trying to interrogate her, just trying to learn more about the situation. And then Roz comes down in a helicopter. Like, there you guys are. Hey, get up here.
Yeah. So Phil Coulson did not originate in the comics, but from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's see here. His first appearance.
It's in Iron Man. We all know this.
Actually, it's in a comic called Battle Scars #1. I don't know what this is exactly here. Is there like a little plot summary here? So here's the solicit synopsis. The post-Fear Itself Marvel universe begins here. Who is Army Ranger Marcus Jones, and how could he tear the Marvel universe apart? Some side story.
I've never heard of him, so I guess he didn't do a good job of tearing it apart.
Right? The Marvel universe was not changed forever.
You've never heard of this guy.
Funny stuff. But yeah, good for Phil Coulson. He's right there. So
always happy to see him.
Indeed. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the mystery. Did you have if I know you knew who it was, but
Yeah.
did you did you feel like the book was kind of leaning towards like we want you to think it's this person instead of that?
I think towards the beginning, there perhaps you would think, oh, this is Freya taking this over, because she's apparently just come off a period where Odin was in Odin sleep, or like he self-imprisoned himself or something. I don't know if he was awake or asleep. Yeah. And she's been the All-Mother. I guess it was under her rule that it became Asgardia instead of Asgard. And he comes back. He's very mad. This Odin is not as nice as the Anthony Hopkins Odin, and even that guy isn't the nicest. This Odin's a real jerk. And he sort of kicks her out like, no, it's my rule. All-Mother, reign of the All-Mother gone. All-Father's back in town. And you do think it might be her for a little while, sort of taking up this mantle to get back at him or to be powerful in some other way. Yeah, until Jane grabs her former boyfriend and kisses him. And she's like, would your mom do that? And he's like, I hope she wouldn't.
I hope not. Yeah. I felt Lady Sif was the one that they were kind of leaning towards. Yeah. Because they bring her up multiple times of like, well, you weren't there. You are a worthy like warrior. Like you have the fighting skills to know how to do all of that stuff. And Thor's sitting there like, I don't think you're a bad person, so you could potentially be worthy, I guess. Right. I don't know. Like, this thing is magical, so I don't necessarily understand exactly what, what makes someone worthy or not.
Yeah.
But
that is a question you're thinking
Lady
of.
Sif.
Understandable. Yeah. Always happy to see her and the Warriors 3, since we haven't gotten to spend a ton of time with them in the films. It's nice whenever they pop up in comics.
Oh yeah, they're always there, being merry, drinking.
No, before I forget about it, in one of these annual short stories, these one-offs where it's about like a younger Thor, like kind of a college age equivalent of Thor. In one of his earlier adventures, Mephisto comes to town to challenge him, and they have a drinking
contest. Yeah.
Another great mirror to the first episode I was ever on, Infinity Gauntlet. That also had Mephisto in it. I know, between these two stories, there's lots of repeating characters, but specifically Mephisto. The fact that we've not seen Mephisto in the past 196 episodes, and look, now he's back.
Yep, indeed. I liked the annuals. Oftentimes those stories are just good. Let's just have a fun romp, right? Like let's have a drinking contest with the devil. Let's do some. Let's test this new Lady Thor. Right, let's see if she's up to the challenge, and they just come up with the like, okay, you must sneak in and steal a lock of this queen's hair, and Thor woke her up and got burned, and fire was everywhere, and all this, and she just walks up and is like, excuse me, like let me wake you up from your nap, and like my name is Jane, like here's my situation, like can I have a? She's like, yes, of course. There's some good moments in those. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments that I think is also really, really fun, that was not in the annual, but in the main issue, I think, was when she's out and Crusher Creel is like robbing a bank something, and he's like, the new Thor is a woman? What? This is dumb as hell. And then his wife Titania walks up and is like, what's happening here? What's going on? Wait, Thor's a woman? Well, this is cool. She
surrenders.
Yeah. She's like, I'll give you a
go ahead and put me in jail.
Doing. Good for you.
Right.
Good for her.
I want this new female Thor to have a win under her belt. Like, go ahead and throw me in prison. I'll take that L. But if we meet again, I'm absolutely going to kick your butt. But for this one time, yeah, you take this one.
It's a great moment.
And I did like that a lot. Yeah. And especially because I'm looking at these two, I'm like, these are familiar. Why do I know them? They were in She-Hulk, right? Didn't Titania fight She-Hulk?
Probably, yeah.
That handful of, who was it, Dan Slott's She-Hulk run that we read?
Yeah,
Wow.
I believe she's in there in that. She shows up a bunch and as some of the like smaller villains of just like, she's in New York robbing banks and getting put in jail and breaking out and then robbing more banks and getting put in jail.
Wow,
So,
what a life cycle. It is amazing that I feel like I've read so few Marvel comics, even if like we'll read maybe like 2 a year or something here on the show. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface, but there are very specific characters like, oh, Crusher Creel is back. I've barely read any comics, but I've encountered Crusher Creel twice.
The Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew is back. We still have yet to encounter one of my favorite like throwaway characters, Paste Pot Pete. who has
Someday
2 glue guns and just shoots glue at people. Paste Pot Pete.
We'll get to it. I would love if one week you just gave me like, here's a bunch of assorted runs. They're not as notable, but they knock off like a bunch of weird little side villains I want to cover. So you're like, I just found something with Paste Pot Pete in it. What's the comic with the Louis Guzman wizard?
Yeah, that's a Doctor Strange one, which I think is actually also written by Jason Aaron.
Oh, nice.
Here. So, yeah. Senor Magico. Good stuff. Yeah, so we have all of that. It's a good mystery. We've covered that a bit here. I do want to talk a little bit about the Roxxon stuff that's happening here, and Malekith and Dario Azure, who is an interesting character indeed.
First off, I gotta say, his name's Dario Azure. You look at his name, Dagger. Dagger. His name is Dagger. I bet this is going to be a knife guy. I bet he throws knives, has a bunch of blades on him or something. No, he turns into a minotaur.
Yep. He is a minotaur. He has the spirit of the minotaur of myth. Like in
not
in
a
him.
minotaur.
The
minotaur.
Yeah. And yeah, such a weird character. I've seen him a little bit pop up here in Thor. I think he's been in some Hulk, some Immortal Hulk comics. But yeah, him and Malekith are working out a deal. Like you said, he has the skull of King Laufey of the Frost Giants, aka Loki's dad. His skull here, and he just has it as a conversation piece, right? He dug it up, he found it, and he's just keeping it. And Malekith wants it back for some reason. We don't know exactly what through most of the comics, but by the end of this, we learn that he is resurrecting King Laufey. But yeah, they're working out some deal, and it's interesting because in the midst of this mystery of like who's the new Thor, who could it be? They have this like anti-corporation story, just about the like how big and bad corporations are and how much they don't care about what they're doing to the environment and all that stuff, and how much of the work that they do is just kind of throwaway. Like, oh, Thor is destroying the building, and it's fine. We'll just write it off. The insurance will cover it. But what did you think of this stuff? Was this a storyline you were interested in? Were you a little bit lost with this? What's going on here?
Sometimes I was a little bit lost. I think my problem was that I would read these before bed, the standard reading time, and I was always too tired. And then I'd get to everything written in the fancy Asgard font, and like something about it, just I could not concentrate. Over.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, Shakespeare stuff. I've seen it. I know. So I was a little lost, but I think that's on me. and not the book. I loved Malekith. I've seen Thor: The Dark World. I know that he's Christopher Eccleston. He's very somber. This Malekith, he's wearing this like battle dress. He's very sassy. He's behaving the way you would expect like a Loki to behave. I really enjoyed his presence. I like him when he goes to visit the frost giants and they truly put him in scale. There's a shot of him walking and you realize he is walking on the banquet table. He's next to like a giant plate of fruit or something. He's so small compared to the literal frost giants. He's just walking around their dinner table trying to make a deal with them. And then he just goes and bothers Dario Agger for this skull.
That's one thing that I like about the comics. The frost giants literally are giants. Like they are huge. Whereas in the MCU, they're big. They could be considered giants, but they're more like 8, maybe 9 feet tall, which is still really, really tall, but it's not the same scale that these ones are at. Like the frost giants of the comics would be like 3 stories tall. Like they'd be huge.
I like that.
I do really like that. But yeah, this Malekith is much more, like I said, flamboyant. He's much more lively. He's emotive. He schemes, right? Whereas in the one we got in the MCU is much more like you said, somber and still and calculated and very like precise. Where you made the comparison to Loki, which I can see that. I don't know if I read him as much of a like trickster or I'm trolling you in that kind of
but there's
way.
Something about him that feels theatrical, feels kind of sneaky.
Exactly. And yeah, it's the second story arc. So after Jason Aaron does that initial like God Butcher arc, there is a story arc with Malekith, and I forget why they go fight him exactly. I think they need to go retrieve something or steal something. I think they need to plan a heist. And so Thor he's like, I need a troll and I need this and all that stuff. And they go steal something there. And that's when they learn that Malekith is up to something and they don't know what. And so, as Jason Aaron is writing these comics, you kind of slowly learn that Malekith is setting up all of these things. He's resurrecting Laufey. He's doing this and that. And it all culminates in what eventually is a Marvel event book called War of the Realms, in which there's this big like war between Asgard and Midgard versus Malekith and the Frost giants and these people and all that stuff. It's a big old fight with their spills out into New York and stuff like that. There's a lot of good stuff in that.
Neat.
Yeah, and that's kind of the culmination of Jason Aaron's run. He does write Thor and some Thor related stuff after that too, but it's not as much of a like, hey, everything in this Thor run is building up to something, like pay attention, this is going to be the big Marvel stuff here. It's more just like, let me just have my own like quiet Thor book here on this side here. But the Roxxon stuff, it's always interesting for me to see Roxxon in Marvel stuff, because they are the like the stereotypical like some evil corporation's up to something, must be Roxxon. So it's neat to see them show up from time to time, because they are always up to something. They are kind of like Titania and Crusher Creel, right? Or the Wrecking Crew, that they just show up. They're there. They're doing something. You know, they shouldn't be, but here they are. And so I kind of like that. It is I mean, in the real world, right, there always is that saying that corporations are kind of like people, right? Like legally speaking, they have a lot of the same rights as people. Or you hear people talking about, man, I really liked this Batman book because Gotham, the city itself, just felt like a character.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
to me, Roxxon always feels like a character. This
Yes.
corporation feels like a character, which is wild.
One of my favorite little details in this book is that we meet Dario Azure, and he's full of himself. He doesn't care about anybody around him. He's rich and he's egotistical. And you see him like in his business suit, and later you like see him in his private quarters, and he's wearing a bathrobe with an R monogrammed on it. He's not monogrammed his bathrobe with his own initials. He monogrammed it with the initial of his company. And it's not the Roxxon logo. It's like a fancy cursive R that stands for Roxxon. And I thought that choice was fascinating. This man is like, he's so egotistical, but like as CEO of this company, like he still knows the company is larger than he is. And that's what he wants. He wants the entire legacy, not of his own life, but of all of Roxxon. That's what he feels proud of. He's like, put that on my bathrobe.
Right? Just imagine Jeff Bezos with the bathrobe on, and it has the Amazon smile logo on it.
And it's not that. It's if he had a bathrobe that just said A.
Right, yeah. But like, so he, like you said, like he's more interested in kind of the future of Roxxon, this long-lasting legacy of Roxxon, which is an interesting comparison to what's happening to Thor here. Because when you mentioned that Thor himself gave Jane Foster Thor his name, he's at the end of the day, he's more concerned about the legacy. And I think someone else in this book, I think it's Freya, who has a moment where she's speaking to Jane Foster, who says something along the same lines here of like, look, it doesn't matter if you're worthy or not to pick up the hammer. You have the name Thor now. Like, that is the legacy. This hammer will shatter, the magic will wear off. Who knows? Something will happen, but you carry the legacy of a god. Now, that is the thing that is lasting and will last much, much longer. And in a similar way, Dario Azure is being like, man, I need a Roxxon to be set up for millions of years. Because in the business deal that he sets up with Malekith, I think he gets like the mining rights to Niflheim for the next like millennia. Right, or something like that. It's kind of wild because he knows that this is not something he's gonna see in his lifetime. Which I guess I don't know if he's immortal or not. I don't think he is, but who knows? But still, like, it's a long ways off. There is this idea of legacy, which is also interesting to me because I feel like traditionally Marvel Comics has been pretty bad at legacy, whereas DC Comics tends to do that a lot better.
Yeah.
Where you have Dick Grayson as Robin, and then he grows up and becomes Nightwing, and then you get a new Robin, and then they get killed off, but then they're not dead, and then they become Red Hood, and then you get a new Robin, and then they go off and become Red Robin, and then you get a new and then like there's all these legacy characters. There's multiple Green Lanterns that take up the ring and join. There's times when characters like Wildcat or someone will get sick, and then someone else will have to take up the mantle. The Flash is a huge one. When Barry Allen dies, Wally West, who's Kid Flash, steps up and becomes the new Flash. Like, DC Comics is really all about legacy, and Marvel, until recently, hasn't been.
Yeah.
Especially now with Miles Morales, with
Mm.
Miss Marvel, with
Yeah.
Jane Foster Thor, with just there's been a number of characters who have recently been introduced that have started to put this idea of legacy in Marvel comics, and I think just in comics, in superhero stories in general, it's a strong theme, and
Yeah.
it's effective as
Yeah.
times change, right? Just as new readers come in, like things
Mm-hmm.
change, and it's sometimes nice to always have those same familiar stories of Superman and Lois Lane, and they're in love and they get married and all that stuff. But at the same time, you also want things to change, and be new and be exciting, right? And
Yeah.
I think this book is a great example of that.
Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, it's fascinating that Thor gives up the name, it's a name that became a superhero identity, but that's also like the birth name. He had that name since he was a baby.
Right?
He's like, I shouldn't be named this anymore. It's your name now. Could go by my last name only. Like, there's no real world equivalent of this. It's not like when Johnny Carson leaves the Tonight Show and Jay Leno takes over the Tonight Show and he's like, my name isn't Jay Leno anymore. Johnny Carson told me I'm Johnny Carson now. I find
really
this pattern
strange.
fascinating. Like, it doesn't repeat. It's not anything I think any real person relates to. Nobody's been in there.
Whoever hosts the review show after me, like, they will be Kyle Springer.
Right.
Now.
Yes. There will forever be a Kyle and a Melissa. We don't care what their original names are.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. So yeah, the things that I don't like about this book, like I mentioned at the start, like, this book is not without its problems. But I think those problems really come with the idea that this is not the start of the story, right? This is not issue 1 of Jason Aaron's run on Thor. This is like, he did like 27 issues of Thor before this. He did Original Sin on like after that, and then it's this. So he has, like, he's been working on this for a number of years to lead up to this point. And that, I think, is where the problem, as much as this is a good jumping on point for new readers, yeah, there's a lot happening here. There's a lot going on that I like we said, that like there's really only 8 issues in these first 2 volumes of this mystery of who the new Thor is. We don't really get that great of a story with her of like, oh, she has like this new bad guy and has to defeat the bad. She has to overcome the bad. Like, there's not a good story like that, right? I don't know, like, it's like that's what I feel like this story is lacking. And unfortunately, at the end of volume 2, like you see on that last page, it's like, this is continued in Secret Wars, and it's like, well, all right, so this just gets interrupted by an event book here and stuff like this. So I feel like it was one of those things. He's like, all right, I have 8 issues to introduce this character.
Yeah.
And kind of do this mystery and have people like her, but also not really enough to give you a proper hero introduction, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to do this little mystery story. Then we'll get interrupted by this event book, and then when we come back, like, that's when we'll get some Thor, goddess of thunder. So that's my kind of gripe with this book, is that as good as it is, it still feels lacking, like we're missing something here.
Yeah, and that is, I think, an unfortunate side effect of just the way volume 2 is structured, that it wasn't additional issues of the story that it was this
Right.
bonus material that I really enjoyed, but it did mean that I
Good
got
inclusions. Yeah.
a smaller scope of the main story here.
Yeah.
I think my only fault with it is I don't know how aware Mjolnir is. If how much does Mjolnir think about what it's doing and why it chooses certain people as worthy? Jane Foster, her conflict is, I must be Thor, even if it kills me. Why does Mjolnir want to kill this lady? There's nobody else Mjolnir could have picked. What? I'm troubled by the continual pattern of you must destroy yourself for this job, and that is correct.
I don't think. See, I don't read it like that, and I want to say I don't think it's meant to be read like that, but I've never heard anyone say that. So it's interesting that that's what you picked up on, because to me, like, Jane being around Thor so much, I think recognizes his importance and what he does for humanity. That she now has this conviction that, as she mentioned in the book, like, there must always be a Thor. Someone needs to be there and help in the way that he does. And Thor becomes unworthy, can't pick up the hammer. And I think because of her staunch conviction, that's why Mjolnir calls out to her. As again, the book mentions that Mjolnir called to her. But I don't think it is this like, you need to be Thor and die for this because you need to right. Like, it's just I think it's recognizing her conviction, and it might not be the ideal situation, but look, you are someone who is worthy. Let's be Thor.
I'm not arguing with that. She's kind, she's intelligent, she does have this tremendous conviction. She knows the context of Thor, the role in the world. I do understand there must always be a Thor that if this role comes to her, she would want to step up and be a hero. But I just think about how Mjolnir doesn't call to her, and she doesn't have any sort of negotiation like, okay, I'm flattered, but don't I deserve to live a healthy life? Why is it me? Not like, whoa, okay, thank you, I understand why I'm Thor. Why does Thor have to go fight all these battles? Why does Thor have to go fight Crusher Creel in Titania? Is Jessica Jones busy? Who's around? Who lives there? Like, I think I wish that there was more of a specific reason why it is. Like, I understand why she is Thor, but I was like, she just, in a world with so many heroes, to have certain heroes be so self-sacrificing and never have the moments of, does this have to be me all the time? I know it is good to always show up when I am called, to always help people. Right. I think I just like to see moments where heroes think more about, what do I deserve? Do I deserve my health more than Spider-Man deserves a weekend off? Can I call him and ask him for help fighting Titania and Crusher Creel?
Right. Like, I mean, we already mentioned there's the whole thing with Raz Solomon still just like having this crazy conviction to do what's right and do good and infiltrate Roxxon to see what Dario Azure is up to and stop them from hurting the environment. And it's just this unyielding conviction that everyone has, and it's good, but it's weird.
Yeah, it's an angle that always fascinates me with superhero stories, going back to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, where Spider-Man's like, the people of New York need me. I can't go to class. I can't go see Mary Jane's play. I can't hold down a steady job. Fate is telling me it is wrong for me to have those things, and I must give all of myself to protecting New York City. That conflict between doing good and between being good and being well, being healthy. How often goodness is, for these larger than life superheroes who are always on the clock, how often goodness is in opposition to any sense of their own personal, physical, mental, and emotional health. And when is their line where they say, I should not do this anymore? There absolutely should be a hero here, but I have to clock out. It can't be me this time.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought. There was a book recently that got kind of mixed feelings about how it ended, because they did something to a certain character in there that a lot of people didn't like how they treated him. But I thought it was an interesting thought. It was along the lines of what you just said, is that, hey, being a hero is often in opposition to one's own wellness and one's own mental health. And you see a lot of traumatic stuff, right? And there was a book that DC Comics put out called Heroes in Crisis. And of course, the word crisis in DC Comics is big, like, uh-oh, something's happening here. But it was a book in which they introduced this idea that, hey, I don't remember if it was like Superman and Batman thought up the idea or who set it up, but they set up basically a house that is kind of like a therapy house for heroes and villains, that they can go there anonymously and basically have these therapy sessions to do all of this. And so you see a lot of them in this like 9-panel grid, just talking about all of their stuff, and they're like, man, I did this and that, and it was an interesting idea. It had this idea that, like, yeah, why does it always have to be me? Why do I have such a sense of, and it does start to have some of those conversations along that line of just like, where does my own mental health fit in? This? So an interesting concept indeed.
Yeah, there's a great conflict going on here. It is compelling. It is affecting. I just think I would have gotten more out of it if I had a greater understanding of why Jane feels like, not just that Mjolnir has called to her, that she wants to stand up to Mjolnir, to hold up to this role that has been bestowed upon her. I wish I had a better understanding of why she thinks every single battle that's around, I ought to be there. That must be what must happen. I have to. And why there's no negotiation of, why me? When am I allowed to step down for my own health? Like, us, the reader, sees this situation is unsustainable. I wish I had more of a sense of her thinking, this is unsustainable. I should get out of this. Or have a very, very good reason why she feels like she can't get out of this. If there is something that truly falls to Thor and only Thor.
And her version of Thor, too. So, yeah. Well, good stuff. I'm glad you enjoyed this book. Yeah. This is a great one. A great book indeed. Tremendous art. Like I said, the colors in Matthew Wilson on the colors on this book, tremendous.
Good looking book. The 3 short stories we get in the annual all have different art styles to them that are all very well paired with the tone of the individual story. Those 3 are really impressive. It was fun to see the what if, the historic what if.
Yeah.
I want to read. I took a photo of this one panel because I thought it was just so wild that in this old what if from the 70s, Jane Foster finds his hammer, gets the powers of Thor. And because there's nobody around to tell her, you are Thor now, she thinks, oh, it seems like I'm like Thor. Maybe I should have an identity that nods to that. I went to school with a Norwegian girl named Thordis. That name's pretty. I'll call myself Thordis. So Thordis, she's figuring out things she can do with the hammer. And at one point she says, by rotating the hammer at high speeds, it emits antimatter particles. I hope.
I hope.
Yes, it's working. I'll now use this as a fan to blow the particles at these people. Terrific. The antimatter particles reverses their atoms and brings them back to normal after they'd been like, there was some spell that turned them into negatives, which was a really striking panel. Like it's something that you expect to just be like an art metaphor to see these people starkly outlined in black and white. No, that is what all passerby sees them as. Like some people in New York City are walking around and they see three other people who have turned into negatives. They have turned into line drawings. And so this is what she figures out. Like, I guess if I spin the hammer, it'll emit like a backwards particle and blow particles on them, and then they'll be better. And then that happens, and she's right.
Man, magic. It's just a science that you don't understand yet.
Yeah.
Whatever Thor said, probably. Yeah. Comics are filled with all sorts of stuff like that. It's great. It's terrible, but it's great at the same time, just because of how ridiculous the whole thing is. But yeah, I think that's kind of about all I have to say on Thor, Goddess of Thunder. Here,
yeah,
good book. I'm glad we read that one. It was a good refresher for me. Okay, let's see. Where is my bingo sheet? That's what I want to pull up.
Bingo time.
Bingo time. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Oh no, why is bingo not showing up? What's happening here?
Oh no.
Is bingo. Hello, bingo. Hello. What? Why is bingo not showing up on my end? That's weird.
Well, I'm looking at my personal copy of my bingo sheet. And this seems so easy. It seems almost like a trick for me to be able to cross out signature weapon or move, because that's the center of the entire series is Mjolnir, the famous weapon.
Indeed, you can absolutely cross that one off.
That gives me another bingo then, straight down the middle.
Sure does.
Right, I got 2 bingos.
Whoops, let's see here.
I have fake fast food brand, poison, signature weapon or move, the free space, a courtroom scene, a butler, and an actor playing themselves.
There you go. Let's see here. No misunderstood monster. No villain with a pet, I don't think.
Dario Agger is his own pet.
Right, yeah. Let's see. Reaction of animal, no. Small town cop, no. Character who connects to computers, no. Hans Zimmer score, no. Diary entry, no. Spaceship AI, no. Numbers as clues or anything, no. Character gets hit through a building. I'm pretty sure we got this.
That sounds right.
Do you have that one too? Character
I don't think I have that on this sheet. I had that last year.
Okay.
But I was never able to cross it out. I never got the character gets hit through building of my dreams.
Okay. Well, I marked that one then. I still don't have any bingos. You now have 2, but I am 1 away in 3 different spots.
Awesome.
And I'm 2 away in a couple other spots. Yeah, I'm so close. But Melissa has taken the lead.
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully it's not going to be like last year where I had 1 and Melissa has like 9. Good stuff. Bingo card has been updated. Unfortunately, video version could not see this one. I don't know why. This happened like a month ago too, like 2 months ago, where it just like it wouldn't show up on stream. I don't know why. There you go. That is updated. That's been saved. We'll do all of that stuff. So, Melissa, let's do recommendations next. If people enjoyed this, what else might they enjoy?
I don't feel like I have anything to recommend that is new to the listener of this episode. Like, if they're here, they already know the MCU movies, which is my main other access to Thor. Right, yeah. Like, I think this is the first dedicated Thor topic I've ever read. I mean, he's popped up in other books we've read. I've never read anything that is specifically Thor. But I would recommend the creamsicle. The dessert.
Okay.
Because the whole time I was reading this book, all I could think about was that one panel from like some old comic where Thor says, I have joined the exalted halls of the godly realms. This day, I am offered a creamsicle. I thought about that. I thought about the old ads where the superheroes would give people Hostess fruit pies.
Goodness gracious.
So my recommendation to the audience is like, pick up a creamsicle
in Asgard.
You are worthy of a creamsicle. Anybody can be. You don't have to be chosen. You choose yourself to have a creamsicle.
There you go. There you go. So I, of course, outside of the MCU, I would also recommend reading the start of Jason Aaron's run on Thor, God of Thunder. Which is entitled, the first arc, I believe, is called the God Butcher arc there. And that is also factoring into the new Thor movie, Thor Love and Thunder. So that would be a good next step if you started with this one to go check that out. I want to recommend a book. So you pitched this one because, hey, on your first review show podcast you were on, it was a Marvel comic. We were preparing for Infinity War or Infinity Gauntlet. Right before that, I read a comic called Velvet.
Yes.
I want to recommend that. This is not superhero based, but it is a comic. It is a spy, like action adventure, James Bond style comic, lots of espionage. But in a similar way, this is about a woman who ends up becoming the main spy, the main character. The basic pitch is, what if or Moneypenny from James Bond was also a spy and used to be one back in the day, and has to come out of retirement and be the big action star. Not because like there's a new mission and she gets called to do that, but there's something going on within her organization, and she is the only one that sees it, and no one really takes her serious because she's a woman. She's maybe a little bit older, stuff like that. So she takes it into her own hands. The comic is written by Ed Brubaker, I believe. No, written by Greg Rucka. I have it on my shelf here. I should go hack it up. But yeah, the book is fantastic. I loved it. There's really only 3 volumes to check out, so it's a pretty short read that you can check out, and it is well worth your time. It is a very good book. I highly recommend it, and the art is fantastic. Definitely one worth picking up. If you want a little bit more of the like legacy Marvel characters, of course I mentioned Miles Morales. You can pick up some of his books. He'd be a good one to check out. Or Miss Marvel, as her Disney Plus show is coming down the road pretty soon here. I just started reading the Miss Marvel comics with my girlfriend, and they are great. They're wonderful. I love them a lot. they'd be one to check out too, especially if you're wanting more of like a traditional like superhero origin story and good like first battle that I felt like we kind of missed here with these comics here. The first volumes of Miss Marvel would be a good one to check out there. So there you go.
Yeah.
Those would be my recommendations. All right. Next week, Melissa, it's our end of the month special.
Yes.
Which means season 1 of Fringe is what we will be covering for the next 5 months, or I guess now next 4 months. We are going to be covering all of Fringe. This is the TV series that J.J. Abrams helped to launch, I think, around season 2 or 3 of Lost?
Oh, it was after that. I think the show came out in like 2008 or 2009.
Okay. Maybe more so when Lost was wrapping up then. But yeah, Lost was, a big hit, and everyone was wondering what these creators were gonna do next. And Fringe was the next TV show. It is a X-Files style show, kinda, where each week is a new mystery, but it's a weird mystery that deals with fringe science, teleportation, mutations, all kinds of weird, strange things happening.
Nothing supernatural. No ghosts here. No aliens.
Yeah. This is a great one to check out. I have seen the entirety of the show before. Melissa, I think you've seen a little bit of it, right? You haven't seen all of it?
No, I watched season 1 when it was airing, and I think I watched into season 2, but I don't know if I ever got to season 3. Like, this was airing when right around, like, I was finishing high school, I was starting college. I had to drop a lot of shows just because I was busy. So I've never finished this one.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, yeah. For the next few months here, every month we will be watching a new season, and at the end of the month, we will be talking about it here at the review show. So season 1 is up next for this next week. I'm excited to talk about this show. It's going to be a good one, but I have my pitches ready for 2 weeks from now. If you want to hear those.
So May 1st. Wow, May 1st already. Jeepers.
Yeah. All right. So pitch number 1. We are dipping back into the well of Marvel Comics here for pitch number 1.
Ooh.
I want to read, I think he only did 3 volumes of this. So it's a real quick read. I feel like we can read the whole thing here. But I wanted to read volumes 1 through 3 of Moon Knight, written by Jeff Lemire. And art by Greg Smallwood. This says Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight / Jake Lockley / Stephen Grant has been fighting criminals and keeping New York City safe for years. Or has he? When Mark Spector wakes up in insane asylum with no powers and a lifetime's worth of medical records, all of his identities are called into question. He's surrounded by faces. Haughty doctor, hostile orderlies, vacant-eyed patients, but maybe those faces are just masks. Some might hide friends, or enemies, or even worse, gods and monsters. Mark's got to get out. The moon is high, the mask is on, but if he succeeds in escaping, will he find only a city of sand? And what will it mean when Mark Spector comes face to face with Moon Knight? Everything you know may be wrong, and you'd be insane not to find out for sure.
Okay.
Go.
When are these from?
This is from about 2016.
Oh,
2016,
okay.
2017. He did small run on that. Let me see, when is this one here? Book 3 of this covers 10 through 14. So yeah, there's 14 issues total. These are all the
Okay.
ones written by Jeff Lemire, who's a favorite of us here
Yes.
on the show. That's why I thought I would pick that. And we'd be covering this, and it would come out the week before the Moon Knight Disney Plus show concludes.
Oh, okay.
So it would be just in time for all of that stuff there. That's pitch number 1. Pitch number 2, since I watched Venom recently, I thought, let's dip into the superhero movies that I haven't seen.
Haha.
And I want to watch Deadpool 1 and 2. I haven't seen these.
Right.
These are ones that I was excited for the first Deadpool, and then I just never got around to watching it. And I kind of got to be one of those things of just like, well, I'll get to it eventually, and I haven't. So Deadpool 1 and 2, I think these would be some fun movies to watch. And we would have plenty of time to watch these as we are finishing up Fringe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like these really need an explanation all that much.
He's Canadian. He has cancer. Then isn't cancer again pervasive in the Marvel universe? Get yourselves checked, everybody. Then he becomes entirely cancer. Puts on a suit, has like a sword, loves chimichangas,
Yeah, he is this like fourth wall breaking anti-hero in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
He gets his name from the Clint Eastwood movie. He is kind of a spoof on Deathstroke from the DC comics. Deadpool's name is Wade Wilson. Deathstroke's name is Slade Wilson.
I didn't put that together before.
Yep. Whereas Deathstroke is like gravely serious all the time. Deadpool is sarcastic and funny and just makes jokes nonstop. And yeah, I know that people like these movies a lot. Did these get put on Disney Plus with the new round of stuff? I don't know.
These have not, but I think these are. I think since the Fox acquisition, the MCU is going to be. Deadpool will show up. It's been theorized that maybe he could have like a brief cameo or Easter egg in Multiverse of Madness, since he is connected to the X-Men. So that would be pretty nice timing to watch these right before Multiverse of Madness.
True indeed. Indeed.
No, they're not on Disney Plus yet. They might be on Hulu.
I think I saw them on HBO Max.
Good. Okay.
That is where I was also looking for pitch number 3 here. This is Blade Runner Black Lotus. This is in a Japanese American CGI anime television series based on the Blade Runner franchise that just wrapped up its first season. I don't know if there's going to be a season 2 or not, or if this is just a mini series, but it just wrapped up in February. It was a co-production between Crunchyroll and Adult Swim and debuted on Adult Swim, all of that stuff. Black Lotus takes place in Los Angeles in 2032, 10 years after, or 10 years into the aftermath of Blackout 2022, which, by the way, is a short, is a techno-noir cyberpunk anime short film directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, who did Cowboy Bebop and the like. But it's set before 2036 Nexus Dawn, which is a 2017 American neo-noir science fiction short film acting as a prequel to the feature film Blade Runner 2049.
This makes me want to go to sleep.
Right. And centers on a female replicant protagonist. It also includes familiar characters from the Blade Runner universe. From what I understand, the main character wakes up in the back of a transport vehicle with a black Lotus tattoo on her shoulder and unable to recall her memories. And it is kind of her trying to figure out who she is, what's happening, what the deal is with all this Black Lotus stuff. I've heard good things. The art on this looks incredible. It's CGI. It looks beautiful. So you know me, I love a good cyberpunk
you
stuff,
do.
and this is one I have heard great things about. And I know that since it recently finished up, it's on my list of things to check out. And I think it's been a while since we've done a good cyberpunk crime noir, tech noir thing here on the show. So
true.
There you go. That's pitch number 3. Pitch number 1, the first 3 volumes of Moon Knight, as written by Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood. Pitch number 2, Deadpool 1 and 2. And pitch number 3, Blade Runner Black Lotus.
All good pitches. I'm sorry to turn down our dear friend Jeff, but I would really like to talk about the Deadpool movies with you. I'm surprised you haven't seen them before.
Yeah.
I saw both of them in theaters, but I've never rewatched them at home. I'd really like to watch both of them back to back now and see how they play, and we can talk about how we think this fits into the larger world of superhero movies and how we might see them in the MCU in the future. I think now would be a good time to broach the topic of Deadpool.
There you go. That sounds great to me. Deadpool is what we will do then in about 2 weeks. The first weekend of May. So yeah.
But which would have been normally Free Comic Book Day, but I believe it's now been moved to mid-August.
Actually, this year I believe it is back to the first week in May. I only know that because this week I went to a bunch of comic book stores near me to try and find my new home comic book store. And one of the things that I got, they put in a bag that was like Free Comic Book Day, May 1st.
It's Saturday, May 7th.
Yeah,
it's Saturday, May 7th. First Saturday in May. Day I'm going to go see Doctor Strange. Big day for comic books.
Yeah. So that'll be good. All a bunch of stuff to be excited about. Go get yourself some free comics from your local comic book store down the road too. So there you go, Melissa. That is it for this episode of the review show. So where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, show where me and my brother James talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember. Our latest episode is our first Saturday night obscurity, where we talk about an adult cartoon. And I promise you, this was not my idea. Jams asked a friend, do you want to come on the show? What would you like to talk about? And this friend volunteered of their own volition to talk about the Venture Brothers. I did not force him.
Yeah.
It was my treat. It was a treat to me, a beautiful surprise. I get to talk about Venture Brothers again?
Sending out mental signals and psychic abilities. Talk about Venture Brothers. Talk about Venture Brothers.
He could have picked anything. This is what he wanted to talk about. And we talked specifically about the TV special between seasons 5 and 6, All This and Gargantua 2, which is wild. Almost every character is in there, and Jams knows Venture Brothers less well than I thought he did. He's like, I've actually never watched a lot of this show, so it was a big learning experience for him. I don't know. How are we related?
Who knows? Well, you guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter. And if you guys want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. If you have some kind things to say, please go leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcast. That would help us out a ton. I think that is about it for this one. This has been episode 201 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.